Okay, Kennesaw Mountain Landis made a ruling that Jack Johnson, because he had taken Lucille Cameron across the state line to marry her, had violated a law that had been passed by the United States legislature known as the Mann Act, which means transporting a woman across the state line for immoral purposes. Now this was trumped up because all Jack Johnson wanted to do was marry the lady, which he did, but he was charged with the Mann Act. So therefore he had to flee and go to Europe to continue his boxing career. He cut a deal, he thought, to fight another guy down in Havana, Cuba, who happened to be another white guy, another great white hope, whose name was Jess Willard. Well, they fought in Havana, Cuba in July of 1915. And the fight went on, and Jess Willard was 30 years old, a late start in boxing. He was a farmer from a place called Potawatomi, Kansas. I bet our president can say that word too. Potawatomi, Kansas. This is all true now, folks. I hate you laughing at the truth, but it's all authentic history. Word had it, the suspicion had it that Jack Johnson actually threw the fight. It went down in the record books as a 26-round knockout. However, very famous photographs, now this is a hot July day, shows Jack Johnson laying flat on his back. The fight was held outdoors. He's laying flat on his back. Now this is a guy that's knocked out cold. He's arching his legs, it's sort of a bridge arch, so as that his outer, his inner thighs would not touch the canvas as he was being counted out by the referee, which aroused the suspicion this had been a rigged fight. But anyway, Jess Willard was now the champion of the world. And Jack Johnson figured he could come back to the United States with his lovely bride, Lucille Cameron, who was about to divorce him in the first place, which she eventually did. He was charged when he did enter the United States. He was arrested. He served a year and a half in Leavenworth, but he was no longer the champion. Meanwhile, Tex Rickard saw more and more opportunity to make money off this great white hope thing. Problem was, Jess Willard was a real big man. He was 6 feet, 6.5, weighed about 240 pounds, but really couldn't fight. He was just big. But a white guy from Colorado came along who could really fight. So once again, on July 4th, 1919, in Toledo, Ohio, Jess Willard entered the ring fighting a young man, a young hungry man who wanted to be a champion. His name was William Harrison Dempsey. People called him Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey destroyed Jess Willard. He cut him 13 places to the bone on his head. A three-round technical knockout, an awesome fight. Jack Dempsey ushered in the golden era of sports. But what was learned from the Jack Johnson era, whose title reign lasted 6 years plus, was that it was going to be nearly impossible for a black man to ever become the heavyweight champion of the world again, strictly based on his behavior. During the Jack Dempsey reign, several black fighters, including a guy named Harry Wills, were just not allowed to fight for the title exclusively because of their race. After Jack Dempsey was finally defeated in 1926 by a fighter named Gene Tunney. Gene Tunney fought Jack Dempsey the following year and escaped that fight in a very well-known fight that happened in Chicago. Gene Tunney was knocked down in the 7th round, but Jack Dempsey stood over him. So that killer instinct did not go to a neutral corner, so the referee didn't start counting until he finally pushed in the neutral corner. Word has it that Tunney was actually down for 20 some odd seconds. Got his senses back, got up and won a decision, retained his heavyweight championship. A year later, he married a wealthy lady, retired from boxing. Another tournament occurred that was won eventually by Max Schmeling, a German, another white guy. The next year he lost his title to Jack Sharkey, another white guy. The next year after that, he lost his title to an Italian-born guy named Primo Carnera, but yet he was a white guy. The year after that, Primo Carnera lost his title to young Max Baer, another record-setting fight in which Max Baer knocked down Primo Carnera 13 times en route to a late round total knockout. And then the following year, The following year, Max Baer, in one of the biggest upsets in sports history, lost a 15-round decision to a man they known as the Cinderella Man, James J. Braddock. All these people were white people, but emerging out of the shadows was a young, humble man who chipped ice for a living, born in Alabama. He grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Humble, courteous, mannerly, sort of bashful. No arrogance, no flamboyance. He just went in the ring and did his thing. His name was Joe Louis Barrow. The ring name was shortened to Joe Louis. And on June 22nd, 1937, Joe Louis, in 8 rounds, knocked out Jim Braddock. He held the title for 12 years. He was succeeded by Ezra Charles, who was succeeded by Jersey Joe Walcott. In 1952, once again, another great white hope came along, an American great white hope named Rocky Marciano, who knocked out Jersey Joe Walcott in September of 1952, held the title for 4 years, and actually became the first person. I mentioned earlier that that Jim Jeffries had retired with the title, but he made the mistake of coming back. He had retired before he fought Jack Johnson, but he came back and got beat, so that means he was not a undefeated retired heavyweight champion. Same thing with Gene Tunney. He retired as an undefeated heavyweight champion, but he did have one loss in his career. But this great white hope named Rocky Marciano never lost a professional fight. He also is the last American white guy, Caucasian, Anglo-American. Can't call him Anglo-American because he was Italian. Are you kidding me? A name like Marciano was an Anglo-American. But he's the last of the great white hopes to actually have become a heavyweight champion. There have been several of them through the years, not too many of them around now, but that's been 54 years. Yeah, 54 years. The spring of 56, when Rocky Marciano retired. There has not been an American white heavyweight champion since, excluding Ingemar Johansson, who knocked out Floyd Patterson in 1959, only to get knocked out the year later. But Ingemar Johansson was from Sweden, home of Anita Ekberg, another great white hope. Woo! That is, you hope you can get inside the ring. Well, okay. All right, but that's a very significant day tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, July 4th. Enjoy it, and remember the great white hope. And thank you for showing up to listen to all this seemingly tomfoolery, but it is true. Except I still can't think of the guy that he won the Negro heavyweight champion from on February 3rd, 1903. I just remember the dates.
What about those 2 Russian brothers that are fighting right now?
They fighting right now?
The 2 Russian brothers said they never fight each other. I think they hold every title in their head.
Okay, here's the deal. There's about 18 different heavyweight champions in the world right now. There's the WC heavyweight champion, there's the WBA heavyweight champion, up until about the time of the retirement of Muhammad Ali, this is the true deal, the heavyweight championship was known as the richest title in sports. But when you got 15 to 18 to 20 different heavyweight champions in the world, that sort of thins out that quality part of it. Yeah, there are some Russian people over there. I think one of them was in Rocky. I also left out the part about James J. Corbett. I mentioned that he beat John L. Sullivan for the title. But in the movie Tom Horn, he also knocked out Steve McQueen. I left that part out. Otherwise, that concludes today's Texas History. The special July 4th.